There are many things that we've covered over the last 8 years on this channel. This channel is 8 years old now, and we've seen highs and lows, and people have largely moved on, as they do with all things. The wisdom is still here. The truth is still here. But what I want to talk about today is what I can't teach you, and that is the thing you learn on your own. Very often, I'm inundated with questions about health problems, and whether or not OMAD caused a certain health problem, or whether or not it can help a certain health problem, and so forth and so on. But underneath all of that is a lesson, and the lesson is, are things as they appear? Do you know yourself? And what you find in all of these circumstances is that people do not know themselves. That's the one thing that hits me watching all of the Durian Writers and Freely the Banana Girl channels, and all of these, of course, the Eric Bergs, the Thomas DeLauer, and all of these health people. And then jumping over into the workout side of things, looking at all of the people and everybody asking, are they using TRT? Are they using any performance enhancing drugs? Are they a fake natty? You find all of this go back. You find the carnivore crazies. You find all of these absurd people on every walk of their lives. And the one thing that hits me is this fact: things are not as they appear, not for you and not for me. Take a for instance here. Imagine a day off you had coming that was very long awaited, and you said, I don't care about anything today. I'm going to lay around and I'm not going to do anything. So the day came, you had a nice sleep from working long hours. You stayed in bed, you kept sleeping, and then lo and behold, you found that when the day came, this long awaited day, you had energy and you wanted to get up and do things. And you either did and had a really productive dynamite day off, or you decided to go against your better judgment and sleep in and make yourself lay there because you thought it was good for you. And then you bounced it around in your mind and you debated it, and you were kind of miserable. And then you got a headache and you got up and you just realized, you came to terms with the fact that you probably should go back to bed because things just aren't working out. You know, this is the worst day. You'd rather be at work. You ever had that happen? Or maybe you had another day come along where you decided to honor how you feel. You woke up with that melancholy, right down the middle feeling, and you said, I'm just going to lay around until I want to. I know that I should get up, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to lay around. And what happened? You laid around until you got to that point in the day, without fighting about it mentally, that your body just got you out of bed. You instantly decided, I'm going to get up. You jumped up and you started with your late morning or even late afternoon routine, and everything just kind of came together. What's the difference in those two scenarios? How is that to work? However you play your day off, what is it that happened in the latter one that didn't happen in the former one? In the former one, you were fighting what you ought to do. And when people say you ought to do this or ought to do that, it's like going to church and hearing a sermon. For you religious people, and religious people forget this, they go and they listen to somebody talk and preach and go on about things. But they forget the fact that if you lecture a liar, the liar will still be a liar. If you lecture a thief will still be a thief. Because it comes off as someone who's in a different place in life talking to someone who's in a different place from them. It comes off as hollow, it comes off as not ready. Versus the second situation, where you have yourself laying in bed and you say, I'm going to wait until I'm ready to get up. And then lo and behold, you find the energy at one point in the day that you didn't plan, and you just get up. You just have energy, you get up, and you do so without thinking. Now here's where I'm going with this. Things are not as they appear. So the levels inside of us, in our inner realms, in our darkest subconscious, are very hard to come to terms with, because all of the trauma you've ever experienced, all of the lessons you've ever learned, all of the controlling uncles or mothers or fathers you've ever fought with are still there. And when you start fighting about your actions, you make the simplest things the most difficult. So what should be you laying in a bed and just getting up when you're ready is not as simple as it appears. So what do? You wait until all of your inner realms line up. And when your outer realm wants what your inner realm wants, then you succeed. When only your outer realm, your conscious, wants something, but your subconscious does not, then that's when you fail. This is why for all of the health problem questions I get every week on OMAD, I get contacted from people on still, even though the channel has died down in its activity levels and its participation and its viewership, I still get questions and I still get people saying, will this help a certain thing? And every time I talk to someone, I get back to the fact that I'm not really solving that problem because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical expert, not even a nutritionist. I have no certifications, as you know if you've watched this for a while. But what we get back to is making sure we line up the outer realms and the inner realms so that they're speaking the same thing. Maybe a person wants to lose weight cosmetically, but they know that they don't want to give up the social pressures that come with going on a fasting routine so that you can take control of your health. What does that leave? It leaves conflict. And it's just like laying in the bed and saying, well, I know I should get up, but maybe I should get up. You get up, you go back to bed. You say, this kind of sucks. Because your inner and outer realms are not lined up. But when everything is lined up, you have no more competing commitments. So you're going to succeed. And you know you're going to succeed, and you feel you're going to succeed. That's what separates you because when you're in your flow zone. Because you know you've lined up again. Just like the planets out of orbit, and then pretty soon they're all lined up. Happens very rarely in our solar system. Why is that so important? Because that's the way you work. Things are not as they appear. And the straightest things you've ever tried to accomplish is say, I'm going to go out, I'm going to get that task. They're not that simple because all of you must want to succeed. And if a part of you does not, if a part of you is holding back saying, well, is this healthy for me? I don't know if this is healthy for me. That's your subconscious saying, I'm not ready to do this. We need to investigate this more. Now, the problem there becomes most people will not get that time, and they will move further and further out of orbit, so to speak, and they're going to get into a situation where they change and no part of them wants it. Their lining up of priorities may not come in their lifetime again. But look at most people. Most people who've lined up several times have lost weight several times. I still get contacted by people who lost weight in 2015 when I started the channel. Kept it off a while and then went in a bad place in life. They fell out of alignment. They went off on some other path, but then they came back and they said, okay, now I can do it. But then they found out they weren't in line for very long, so they were out of it again. Well, what's the lesson there? The lesson is something I can't teach you, and that's the problem with what we're faced here. You have to have the lesson. Take two guys. One guy is very eager to talk to girls and get girls to go home with him. Another guy is not. He's very timid. He doesn't want to get rejected, so he doesn't talk to many women, and he ends up being a virgin till he's 25. The former guy has his first experience in high school. What's the difference between those two? The difference is wisdom. And it's a type of wisdom that can't be taught usually. Because if you are a risk taker, you are risk. And if you are a security seeker, you are a security seeker. Risk and safety, risk and safety. How do you get someone who's a risk-averse person to start taking risks? They have to see and acknowledge the need to go out and take risks. Whereas this guy over here, who's the risk-prone person, knows something that the other does not. That if you put yourself out there enough, you're bound to eventually get laid, basically. You're bound to, for all the no's, you can only have a number of no's until finally you get a yes. We used to say that in the car business. We used to say, for all the rejections you have, it all comes back to understanding that eventually you have to get a yes. No, 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 yes. Finally, that's going to happen. And it's going to be a win for you. The first guy knows that. The second does not. He thinks that if he stays secured, he will be just fine. You could use that reasoning for anything. A lot of women, after they're sexually assaulted, never leave their houses or apartments. They get everybody else to do everything so that they can feel secure. Even though statistics being what they are, that would never happen again. They would never have another negative experience with a man the rest of their lives. It doesn't work that way, though. Or the latter guy faces the fact that he values more security. And at the end of the day, he doesn't want to get laid. Just an analogy. What am I saying? I'm saying that for all of the stuff you see on YouTube, the crazies, the extremists, the bizarre people who go on crazy fad diets, the people who always end up coming back to OMAD are the people who are really serious and things have lined up. Obviously, not all of them who come back to OMAD will succeed. And one of the most negative things that I get is the fact that people treat OMAD now just like another fad. Everybody knows about it. Everybody talks about it. But none of them take it really seriously unless you understand these sorts of principles. Think about how much happens in your daily conversation with someone at work, at school, at college, at anywhere. And all of the programs that are running in your and their mind during that conversation that create the experience that you're having. Well, you can't know it, and that's the problem. So what am I telling you? I'm telling you to read between the lines. Look at all of the extremists and look at all of the lazy, lackadaisical dieters and realize that all of them are lacking the same essential principle here. That there is wisdom, there's more to the story. Things are not as they appear, and that which is lacking is basically your ability to find yourself. If you have found yourself, then you have married the world with all of its flaws and with all of its weaknesses and with your body and all the things that you don't like about it and wish were different, and all of the money you're willing to spend on cosmetic, fake hair and fake boobs and fake everything else. Most people, or a lot of people, will do that. Other people will say, hey, it's just the way it is. But the benefit of that, the benefit of knowing yourself, is that the entire world is at your disposal. Because you understand how to live effortless. You understand how to live and give and take. I really don't see it very often. But I tell people, if we can take one step at a time and we can say, here is where we are now. Once you understand that pattern, you understand that truth, then suddenly something changes. And that thing that changes is your assessment of self. You realize that for every exchange you failed, just like the dating guy, the dating analogy we made, you got back the wisdom of knowing something else. Okay, this is rejection number 6. Number 7, finally, you know that acceptance is coming. That's wisdom. You can only be taught by experience. So I think in conclusion here, what I'm really telling you is it's never too late to start. And it's never too late to look inward and instead of looking outward. Instead of looking for perfection, instead of looking for the ideal diet, which people still do, even though we tell them it's not about perfect food, they still look for perfect food. It's the same game that people play. They don't learn the lesson, so. What's the definition of insanity? It is going out and expecting different results from you doing the same thing. You go out and do the same thing, the same things happen. Why is that so simple and yet so profound? And why, more so, are we still falling for that sort of reasoning? Not realizing that we are completely powerless at its feet, apparently. We're falling for the same thing over and over and not learning the lessons. So the lesson that I can't teach you is hopefully the one you've learned here, just by looking inward, just by looking at the things that are already in your path, that are already obstructing your view. They're all within, never without.